You're welcome back. This is the big issue on Citi FM and Citi TV. My name is Abena Nyamekye Ampadu. We are talking about the fallouts from this year's presidential and parliamentary elections. Before we went for the break, we began with the presidential results and the issues the NDC is raising. Franklin Cudjoe is on Zoom with us. Good morning to you, Franklin. I know you have your own issues with the Electoral Commission, among other things, but with the concerns the NDC is raising and the inconsistencies with the figures we've seen, what do you make of it?
Good morning to you. By the way, you are beautifully dressed. And I think that my good friends in the studio, by the way, and then on Zoom as well, Dr. Kojo Asante. Look, if the EC needs to thank anybody, it should thank the CODEO, thank the CDD for having had a parallel system. Otherwise, the shambolic process of trying to change results, which in itself, instigates some crisis of confidence, would have been quite monumental. And I was just telling Kojo offline that you guys did the yeoman's job. And I don't even know how the EC eventually decided to announce the wrong figures, you know. To think that we spent close to $150 million on this EC, claiming, first of all, that they were going to electronically announce the results, to changing it to manual verification and manual announcement. The least you can have is this rather basic arithmetic errors, which I suspect is not necessarily out of line with the ECs anyway. If you look at the fact that the registration process and all the numbers that they kept changing, it's in constant keeping with the DNA of the EC, by the way. Having said that, I think it is quite legitimate for anybody who contested this election. And by the way, I have to make a quick point that the EC's back and forth has not helped any of the candidates. It's not helped the president, it's not helped former President Mahama as well. Because now it's giving them, especially the NDC, has been emboldened to say that, well, the fact that you admit that you made errors, and by the way, these errors were not just one. The EC systematically, I think on 3 occasions, changed the results while they first announced that they had made mistakes. In fact, we have screenshots of all of them. So you are seeing a situation where you are rather now entrenching the belief, however vague it is, that somebody won properly and somebody lost properly. If you ask me, I think the major burden we have now is to deal with the inconsistent nature of the EC. Put all of that aside as my inglorious, or if you like, vain inglorification of the EC. But to suggest that the elections were overly done and so the EC should be congratulated is something I don't even understand how we get to that position, because they only provided machines and people had to go and vote. That's all. I think Ghanaians
but they manned the operations, Franklin. The machines they provided did not work for themselves.
Yeah, the machines they provided were bought with our money, even though they
and they supervise the process. Let's move along with this.
Yeah, but that's the point I'm trying to make. This whole idea of trying to claim credit for organizing an election, it's unfortunate, because the point really is that, look, they just did their job. That's what they should do, the basic minimum. I am rather surprised that they could get this basic arithmetic errors. And some people are suggesting that, people make mistakes. This EC did not look kindly to the likes of Marie Gan, Kofi Korantin, who did not even know that their signatures were signatures they wanted for the presidential vote were fraudulently acquired. But the EC dealt with them. In fact, the EC decided to report them to the what's it called, investigative authorities. How we can move from that very high standard to accepting that the EC can decide that they made a mistake and change results 3 times is for me quite shocking. So for me, I would say that whatever contestations anybody has for the elections, I think until they have fully exhausted the processes, we cannot discount the fact that it is a legitimate or a legal, should I say, modus operandi to our elections. I mean, I think people are allowed to contest. Even the MPP itself says And I think Pius can confirm that the NPP itself believes that in 5 of the constituencies, the results did not go in their favor and they are likely to contest the results. I think it's normal that these things are allowed to go their full length. And by the way, I think that, Pius, I don't think you should be heckling your colleague from the NDC at all. I think you should allow him to make his point, and then you come out to suggest that the public education, in terms of what he's trying to do, is a time waster. It's not the case at all. We are going to write a full report on what we also saw. And maybe we can have a proper conversation. But please, I beg you, don't stampede your brother from the, from the region.
All right. Pius, we've seen the back and forth with the Electoral Commission, and they have even admitted to some of these things, the inconsistencies in the data. Don't you think that is worrying?
See, what is wrong is wrong.
Okay.
Mathematical, administrative errors, they are errors. They are not things that we must encourage.
Okay.
But precedence exists relative to presidential elections, where in the view of the learned judges of the Supreme Court, mathematical administrative errors, which do not fundamentally go to turn the general picture and the verdict of the people of Ghana. You cannot hold on to administrative and mathematical errors to ask that the people's popular choice be done away with. We were in this country when in the Supreme Court, in the case of the 2012 elections, there were differences between the overvoting, the finger of God things, and the differences even between numbers on the same, and we are talking about tabulations here. We had a situation where there were differences in the numbers as in figures and words. And the Electoral Commission chose one over the other. But at the end of the day, the Supreme Court held that such administrative errors of returning officers not signing pin sheets and so on, those ones are not able to turn the people's popular mandate, which is evidently clear on the face of the pink sheet. So,
but allow
for me
to do that.
Pardon?
Why don't you allow the process to go through so that the court
But that's the same thing I've been saying. That's what I've been saying since, that we should allow the process to go on, okay? But to get ahead of the process and put the cart before the horse and come and make some suggestive, and I mean, if you may, they are very, very serious because there are some tensions in the system still. And to come and just create the impression that without any records here, for instance, what Dr. Aheto said, that 30,000, 35, that's really dangerous, and it worried me. And that's what my concern was. I don't have a problem with somebody wanting to go on. And with the earlier caller on Zoom,
and Dr. Kojo Asante,
I think that I don't have to be a lawyer to agree with him. His suggestion that, okay, the process of collation, that involves signatures, we have to go through all that. But I'd also want to read from the CI 127, 48.2. The non-attendance of the candidate or the polling agent or counting agent of the candidate at the time and place shall not invalidate the act or thing, because this is in relation to 48.1, which is that, well, maybe I should read that so people can understand. In these regulations, where an expression is used that requires, authorizes, or implies that an act or thing be done in the presence of a candidate or their agents, okay? Because if you read the law says that this shall be done in the presence of the candidates, in the presence of their candidates and their agents. But there's a part of the law, and it is a trick that I believe that our colleagues in the NDC want to use by refusing to, and they have done in a few instances.
Refusing
it's not
to
just
do what?
to sign the sheets. In some instances, not just the NDC. In fact, political parties all over through from 1992 up to now have done the same. But you'll find out in most of these CIs, for good reason, it is said that your non-attendance or maybe even refusal to sign a sheet does not invalidate it. Otherwise, political parties can hold the system to ransom.
Lawyer Paul will clarify that
say
for
that
us.
we will not sign. We will not sign. So then the process cannot go on. No, even without your signature or your lack or the lack of presence of your signature or the absence of your signature does not invalidate the process. So I agree with him that we can go through the process. But I also think that when I said that the NDC is engaging in acts of fishing and they are throwing wide generalizations to make a case which does not exist, this is what you find. You see, if even in, I'm sure all over the world, when after conducting an elections with over 30-something thousand polling stations, I'm sure you can find in anywhere, once human beings are involved, you will find one or two mathematical
Don't you agree
errors.
that these errors, you call them, they create doubts in the minds of the people?
Well, but I'm saying that at our level, we who know what the situation on the ground is, we know, like has been said by the caller from Kojo, I believe, that these errors...
The caller, it's Kojo Asante.
Oh, sorry. Our guest on Zoom, sorry.
Yes. Dr. Kojo Asante. It's okay.
You are guilty of what you accuse me of. If you allow me...
Franklin, let me speak. You go ahead.
You can say callers.
No, I'm sorry. I have apologized for that. The culture is that when we are in the studio, it is the... so I'm sorry.
Okay,
our guest
ahead.
on Zoom, I agree with him that we can go through the process to even correct. But fundamentally, even with all the corrections, and that's why our colleague Dr. Aheto here, who sleeps on the data and eats the data, is not able to tell us. Is not able to tell us what the percentage that they expect Mr. Mahama to get and what percentage they expect President Akufo-Addo to get.
Yeah, he's ready to tell us that now.
If he sits on the data and eats on the data, he would have said that already. But anybody who does any honest analysis of the pinches, as have been done by the Kojo with the PVT, will come to the conclusion that the law that guides the declaration of presidential elections, the 50% plus one, that one is done and settled, and that no matter what figure we use, NDC figure, EC figure, whoever does an honest tabulation, the end result will be that Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo is elected one touch first round.
Okay.
And so let's move on.
Dr. Aheto,
and administratively, we can deal with building capacity of the
in the
Electoral
EC's
Commission.
figures, the statements they released. What else does the NDC have? And what figure do you expect John Mahama to clock?
Okay, so thank you very much. But Pius made a comment that suggests that we don't have figures to speak to. And I want to put some few figures out, which you can verify before I move on to your question.
Okay.
For instance, if you take Nana Addo vote, between the one they used to release first on the 9th and the one they released second on the 10th of December, there is an addition of 174 votes to Nana's vote, okay? Because the one that they declared on the 1st, or that is on the 9th of December, is 7,730,413, okay?
7 million.
7 million?
6 million. 6 million.
You see that even you, doctor, with all the data you eat.
Let him speak. Let him speak.
Yeah, but I thought
I can do what you're doing. No, I can do more than that.
Doctor,
No, take your time.
You let him go.
You see that we are memo
Yeah.
But
I think it was a slip.
No, you are my brother. If you want me to follow your line, I'll follow your line. It's not a good one.
It's Franklin's line.
Let's go.
It's Franklin's line.
You have to call him back again. Anyway, let's go. So on the 9th of December, they mentioned 6,730,413 for Nanado. That's on the 9th of December.
Okay.
But on the 10th of December, they mentioned 6,730,587, which added 174 to Nanado's vote. Now, what will shock you is that when it comes to President Mahama, on the same 9th, they gave Mahama 6,214,880, but on the 10th, they gave Mahama 6,213,182, a short of 1 million, that's 1,707. Reduction, okay? In Mahama's vote, okay? So when we are talking about disparities, these are absolute figures, okay? But what will shock you is that when the EC came to bring that second release that they brought, one of the very strongest, but sorry to say, responsible statement they made was that this does not change. That is the new value vote that they brought, which is a 30,119,460. They say this does not change the percentages stated for each candidate and the declaration made by the chairperson. No matter how, once you vary the denominator, you can't get the same percentages. So when we compute the percentages, what we now got was that Nana Addo, based on their own figures, Nana Addo should have gotten, which is 51.302%, which is not the same as what they gave him on the 9th. On the 9th, they gave him 51.295%. But the CEC is saying that it doesn't change the percentages. These are figures. You see, I want to speak to the fact so that the audience will listen and they make their own decision. That's what I don't want to go into the line Pius want to bring me into. Let me speak to the data for the audience to make their decision. Now, you're asking me what will be the position of the NDC. Now, let me just go straight for that one. Okay. Now, it will shock you that in the declaration on the 9th of December, EC made it clear that they have not added that of the Techiman South vote, if you remember, which is 128,018 registered voters. Okay, that's the number. 128. Exactly, 128,018. That's the number. EC made it clear that even if they actually even give the whole of that to Mahama, there's no way he will have run to run off, or maybe will have won. Nana will still pick about 50.8% or something like that. You remember that statement? Yeah. Good. Now, based on the total value vote that EC put out, which is the 30,434,474 on the first day, that's the 9th of December. If you do the computation, that will bring you to 50.098%. Now, assuming what the EC said is true, that if you add the entire Techiman South vote to President Mahama, you wouldn't have closed. Nana will also be the winner. Let's do it. When you add that figure to what the EC is saying, Nana Addo will have gotten 6,730,413 votes. Mahama will have gotten 6,342,907 votes. And when you compute the percentage on that, Nana Addo will have obtained 49.625% of the valid vote cast. Well, Mahama will have obtained 46.76% of the valid vote cast. This is a straight runoff. This is where the issue is. So if they keep telling us that, if they add that figure... For you, the EC made a mistake, which they admitted to. Based on that... The mistake I'm talking about now is them saying that even if they add the entire Techiman South vote to Mahama's vote... Which is 120,000 plus to Mahama's vote. Assuming they give everything to Mahama, they don't get anything. I'm saying that statement is most irresponsible statement. Because if you add that figure, as they said, to what we have now, the total, you see, one thing they don't know about... So if you add Techiman South... Can I finish? One thing about this, if you're not careful into numbers, you don't know what is going on. Because even if one person's vote increases by 1, it decreases the other person's, it comes down. This is a strategy. If you don't know, the percentage. It comes down. If you increase it only by 1 vote, then all those votes will have come down in terms of percentage. So if you make such a statement openly in a declaration, it's so dangerous. So the decision to go ahead and declare without Techiman South... It's a wrong decision. It's wrong. It's a wrong decision. And I'm telling you that the data is here. I've mentioned it. I can go and work on it. It's not me saying it. The EC said it. No, so it's a dangerous thing. The calculation is... No, let me finish. Let me finish. It's not your term. It's not your term. You cannot tell me it's wrong. I mentioned the figures to you. Go and do your calculation. It's flawed. How can you say it's flawed? Okay, you were there. You were there that day. You listened to the EC. Can I seek a clarification? Yes, you can. Yes. So the analysis you are making, at least on this point, so if on the statement as it was made at the time it was made, based on the wrongly used total votes, right? Total valid votes. Yes. Your statement will be correct. But on the adjusted, right, which is the second one. I like the word adjusted. Yes. No, I mean, I think it's... But everybody knows. It's not... what would the percentage give you? So that's what I was even raising issue about. That even the one that the EC claimed to have been used in error actually did not even reflect at all in the 9th declaration. Okay, so what he wants to find out is that if you work with the corrected figure, what percentage? Which is the 13,119,160 you mean? Yes, yes. And I'm telling you that even in the table, if you add everything, there's not enough to that.
So
I told you this earlier.
So when you added,
no, this everybody could have done this. So this is not a denominator. If you want this one as a denominator, you can recalculate what we are talking about. You can recalculate.
Yeah,
we want to know what will the percentage be?
That's what I'm saying. You can recalculate.
But Doc, sorry, 1 second, Doc.
Do you understand what I mean? No. Because he did not use that in what I'm telling you right now. So he's asking me if you were to use that, what would the percentage be?
But so you haven't used that
yet. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Because if that one is not in the table, the table they gave is the figure right here. It's not the same as what is in the table.
Challenge.
Please, let me read it to you. No, you don't have a challenge.
You let him, he can
finish with the numbers.
You continue. Just a minute.
My challenge is that my brother says that the EC used total ballots cast. They used total ballots cast instead of total valid votes.
Yeah.
Which means that they had used a bigger denominator. Okay? As compared to what they should have used, which is the total valid votes. It's a smaller denominator. So if the suggestion is that once the denominator is smaller, the percentages will definitely have to reduce because the denominator is smaller. But the percentages will reduce not just for one candidate, but all of the candidates. And it will reduce by the same margin. If you discount, it will reduce by the same margin. So I don't have to even, it is a simple mathematical principle.
Don't continue.
Please, let me finish. So, I think Pius don't know what data I'm speaking to. Pius don't know about data. Okay, that's what he's trying to suggest to me. You know, what he's saying...
Well, not everyone is vexed in the same field.
That is why I want to go straight to the data. So
you shouldn't be cutting me off.
You shouldn't be cutting me off. I want to go straight with the evidence available to me. I don't want to bring in his concept. If I'm using a wrong figure here, you can tell me that what the figure here is not correct. You can verify yourself from the issue.
It's okay. You go ahead. You go ahead.
It's my own brother. So
if you go along those lines,
no, that is what I want to be problematic. Don't divert me to your line. I won't do that.
If you go along those lines, it will be problematic.
No, I will not go your line. I want to speak to the figures.
But if you say that you don't know data, that's not correct.
Okay, then I apologize for that statement.
What I've said
is a statistical. I said I apologize for that statement that you don't know data.
Let's move on.
Are you okay now?
It's not about
yes, it's okay.
I just want to apologize for the way.
I
just want to apologize for the way I've used.
No, it's okay. Let's move on.
It's always good to listen to the other side too. So I'm
let's move on. Let's move on.
Yes. So if you really want to, if you tell what is in the table, the total valid vote according to the EC table should have been 30,121,111. But what they even show now finally, which I keep questioning.
You said it should have been 13 million.
Yes, let me say it again.
100 and what?
It should have been 30,121,111.
111.
Exactly.
Valid votes.
Valid votes. According to what they put inside the table, if you sum what is in the table. But in their reportage on the same release for the same second day, which is on the 10th, they quoted that, okay, let me read it again. Sorry to say this. Now, the total valid vote cast is, okay, let me take from the first. The chairperson of the Electoral Commission inadvertently used 30,433,573 as the total valid vote cast.
Yes.
The total valid vote cast is 30,119,460, which if you add what they themselves put in the table, will not be up to that. And that's what I gave you.
Okay, which
that's the what I gave you. 30 million.
You've already made that point.
Yeah. So this is what the argument is.
Okay.
You see, I think. Can I make a comment?
Yes, go ahead, Franklin.
I don't think it is fair to be accommodating of the view that we want to minimize the error that has been made. This is a serious issue.
Yes. Yes.
It is not it's not a small matter.
Not at all.
At some point, we counted 101%. At some point, we counted 106%.
Even 103 came in.
The figures. So I think it's important that we should not be seen to be minimizing the impact of this error. While I agree that yes, maybe if you did a tabulation, you may come to the same result. The point though is that could there have been more errors along the line? I think that's the question Dr. Aheto.
As simple as like that, and there are many.
Seems to be suggesting and asking. I want to take my previous conversations about the EC apart. Don't even use the factor that. I was gravely worried, really, and indeed, I think one of our donor partners was having a conversation with me that how could we just engage in these simple errors? And there have been other journalists who have seen this. Noam Falom, Mabel Akubanasi, they've been monitoring. They have screenshots of the various times that the EC has fidgeted with the result. Don't forget, these are supposed to be legal documents. And so to be seen to be fidgeting with the figures is not a small matter. I think we shouldn't discount that. And like I keep saying, the only real insurance the EC has right now is the work done by Cudjoe. And I doff my hat for Kojo Asante and this group.
Yeah, but frankly, there's a remedy. There's a remedy for that, as has been espoused by Doctor or the guest on the Zoom.
Pius,
There's a remedy for that.
Let this is finished.
It's Dr. Aheto, please.
Thank you.
I'll just.
But I'm saying that there's a remedy, as has been prescribed by our guest on the other Zoom call.
Pius, let me be very candid. Had it been the other way around, I don't think you would have been singing the same tune you're singing right now. I think it's important, let's not minimize the impact of errors made. Like I said, you see, the EC was invested with millions of dollars.
That's
to get to
understood, but we need to make progress.
How you come to a situation where you make these fundamental errors actually go to suggest that there's a crisis of confidence. And I think that is what I don't want us to do. Let's not minimize the impact of the error.
Okay. On that score, we all agree. On that score, we all agree that if there are errors, can they be remedied? Yes, there's a prescription has been made by Dr. Kojo Asante, and he's saying that even after we have followed that prescription to remedy the situation does not change fundamentally. So beyond that, we can correct. We can build the capacity. We can build the. That's my addition. That we can.
That is your position. That is your position. But the NDC thinks that with all these errors, it could be a different outcome. That is what they are saying.
No, they are not correct.
That is what they are saying. So you can put your figures to dispute that.
Can you show me your figures?
Go ahead, please.
All right, when is done?
Let him finish. Let him finish.
I just wanted to learn.
Oh, you are fine.
You just finish your point
right now.
I am look, this is a small community.
You have run out of words.
We're an incestuous community, so we all know what it is. All I'm saying and asking Pius is that would Pius have been singing the same tune had it been a shout who have done these basic errors? I don't think so. I think it's important that you allow the process. Even what Dr. Asante is saying is that they want to hold on to their tabulation because they believe in the tabulation. What you are trying to suggest is that we should stop any processes to either challenge the results, because eventually we'll get to what Dr. Asante is saying. No,
it's not correct.
Dr. Asante needs to defend his position because they know they've done the work. But he's not even suggesting that the NDC may not have a legal case if they want to contest every aspect of the results. I think these are two separate issues that we need to highlight.
No, we are saying that the NDC can go through any processes to challenge.
Which so that's the point you've made. That's the point you've made. Lawyer Paul Kame.
Yes, you see, I think that the EC may have brought this upon themselves when they included in the CI public announcement of presidential regional election results. Because when it comes to presidential elections, there is only one constituency, which is the whole country. And the returning officer is the chairman of the Electoral Commission. So when you now then decide to put together regional election results, it may lead you into complicating even the processes as announced. I mean, since 1992, you remember when we had to go to the center, the Black Star Square, where it was virtually being written on a board. It was constituency by constituency. It doesn't get complicated, but they have made these things so complicated. In fact, I just realized that it was even in the, it's been put in the CI. And this is what was also bringing about the confusion where some was, how come I have won about 9 regions and yet have not been declared the president? And a lot of people who may not understand the circumstances of our electoral laws may also get confused, may think that it is akin somehow to the US system and so on. We have made it needlessly complicated.
Correct.
And I think that in future, they may have to have a second look at it. Make it simple. You are the returning officer of one constituency, which is the nation Ghana. Don't complicate these things by going after doing the
announcement of the results by the regional EC directors.
And then when you see the procedure here, it's too elaborate even for it to go through these processes, and they still said 24 hours. I think that...
Dr. Kojo Asante, did the EC bring this upon itself and all the issues people are raising with the collation process?
He's gone.
Do I still have Dr. Kojo Asante on Zoom?
Sorry.
All right.
I think after this process, we have to completely review the collation process. This is the second time that the voting day has gone well, and the collation is being just a complete disaster in some places. I mean, just in some places where you are getting 200, 250 presiding officers coming there with their voting booths, their bronca buckets, their ballot boxes, you know, all together to line up and go and try to, you know, submit their returns. It's just chaotic. And remember, they are getting there around 6 or 7 p.m. You know,
places there was lights out.
It's just too complicated, and you have to go through that exercise. And now, forward that process to the regional process where then you get a declaration. I think it just hasn't worked. It was thought that it would be easier, that by the time it gets to the Electoral Commission, you are just tallying what has already been collated. But if for you to do that, it means that at the collation center, when it's announced, it should be considered certified results of the Electoral Commission. The same way at the regional. So what is being calculated is basically what everybody is already agreed. By the time the Electoral Commissioner comes and announces it, even the public had done the calculation already.
Yeah.
So we really need to review that process. Of course, we said that the 24-hour was ambitious. We know what had happened in 2016. Because remember, the parties are also doing their collation. And sometimes their own polling agents have to report to party office in terms of their numbers before they even deal with the collation center. And that also can cause a delay. So we have to completely review this process because it's completely undermined a lot of the wonderful processes that everybody went through during the voting. And then actually that's where you got even more violent incidents during the collation. So I completely agree that some of these things are not acceptable in terms of the errors and so on and so forth. These are legal processes. You know, even for the NDC to go to court, they need to have the instrument of declaration that says we have declared Nana Akufo-Addo president based on these results. So fortunately, as I proposed, there is a window before the execution of that instrument where you have to make sure that the tallies and what you have presented is consistent with what has been declared at the collation center, what has been declared at the regional center, and what the final tally sheet that the presidential candidates and their agents are signing. That has to be consistent so that we know that what you have declared is that source documents and so on are all aligned, and somebody can go and challenge that and say, oh, there are different things that have to matter. At the basic level, those things must align. Otherwise, that's just not that's not going to fly.
All right.
Can I just quickly highlight these processes that Kojo is talking about? Okay. I mean the relevant parts. So if you take the sub-regulation 10 of regulation 44, it says the chairman of the commission shall, on receipt of presidential regional results, summary sheet as set out in Form 12 of the schedule, in the presence of the public and with not more than 2 counting agents appointed by the parties contesting or the polling agents of the parties, if any, assemble and collate the presidential election results from the regions provided by various regional collation officers as set out in Form 12, fill the declaration of presidential results form as set out in Form 13, request representatives of the political parties to sign the declaration of presidential results form as set out in Form 13, declare the results of the election of the president, and post a copy of the declaration of presidential resource forms as set out in Form 13 schedule at the head office of the commission. So we may be interested in knowing what is actually posted there and with what percentages. I think we need, maybe if we get the opportunity. Then 11, an instrument which is executed under the hand of the chairman of the commission and under the seal of the commission, and state that the person named in the instrument was declared elected as president of Ghana at the election. And it's prima facie evidence that the person named was elected. Then finally, the instrument referred to in sub-regulation 11 shall be published in the Gazette. And so, of course, I think that Kojo also, as you know, it is the content of the Gazette that is actually going to be the final legal document. Because even without the Gazette, and even though elsewhere they state that time starts running for the filing of a petition challenging the election of a person as president from the date of declaration, there's a further information that it will rather start running from the date it is gazetted, and it's usually done on that day. And so I think that first we should demand what has actually been gazetted. Then if we have an issue with that one and the source document, we can now go for it. Yes, the credibility and the integrity is important on the voting day. But at the end of the day, ultimately, the most important legal instrument is the one that it shows in the Gazette. And that is what I think we should all push for. And if it doesn't, it's inconsistent with the source documents. I mean, we saw a lot of it in the presidential election petition. I mean, sometimes 210 or 2010 sort of words and things. I mean, you see, just quickly, we sometimes forget that the EC work with us Ghanaians, and they don't have a standing employee size that can help them conduct this election. I mean, otherwise, you can't get people taking off the head of a candidate and all that. It is the same Ghanaians they are using. And so we need to also let people understand that these things don't pay. And you cannot engage in such criminal acts and then cause the whole nation problems and just be satisfied with it. No. So at the end of the day, let the EC now publish the Gazette. Maybe put it out, the citizen must know process. Put it out there that this is the public Gazette. Then we can take it, and I think Doctor and his people and everybody will be interested in now then taking the pink sheets that have been signed and all that. Regarding whether signed or not signed, in actual fact, even with the constitutional provision that the pink sheets must be signed by the presiding officers, of course, the Supreme Court said that if we were to insist on it, we can get a very wicked presiding officer who refused to sign in the stronghold of his own party. All of them have parties or support one candidate or another, even if they don't have a party. And it will be wrong for you to apply the punishment that he should deserve rather to the unsuspecting voter. Or visiting the sins of Adam on us. We are all complaining, but we were not there when Adam did what he did anyway. But so the final point is that then if you are an agent and you refuse to sign, that doesn't invalidate the process. Otherwise, others will be holding others to ransom. Okay, so please let the EC just give us. We are not interested in the notices they have issued already. Let them give us the Gazette, and then we can take it out from there, I think.
Okay, let me just read some messages.
Can I make a quick correction on this very issue?
Okay.
Go on, just say.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so one thing that we should also know is that even if you refuse to sign a pink sheet, it means there's a reason. And there's a column provided for you to fill in the reason you refuse to sign.
Yes.
But that does not invalidate
the result.
The person has to go ahead and declare. Exactly, that is one. That secondly, to the situation we are facing in terms of the people not feeling incorrectly here and there. In the 2012, it's more about at the police stations. It's not what the EC at the national level collated. What we are facing right now is what the EC at the regional and then the national collated. This is where the expression is coming from. So let's differentiate between those two.
Then it shouldn't be difficult. You just go to the source document.
That's what data
For all of us, so there wouldn't even be an argument.
You and I will not be agreeing today if they can go back right now.
So get us your print sheet.
Okay, let's Honorable Hadzide also make a straight point. I need to take a break.
You see, when the lawyer took us through the long requirements
in
the
the
law, there was wisdom in why there are various layers of these steps. And so that's why I'm saying that instead of going fishing and then finding excuses,
there's nothing wrong with
let's just take our time. Let us take, so it's fishing. When we lose an election, we just go and find excuses and throw it into the system. Instead of going fishing, let's just take our time and identify the various challenges that we may have as an institution. There are capacity problems. And we can discuss the capacity problem of the Electoral Commission.
That's right.
But to want to latch onto some administrative errors within the system to seek to overturn the will of the people, that one, it will be a disservice to this country.
Okay, he says that's not what they are doing.
No, that's
Let me read some messages. All right, Awafa J inside Atadeka says, I wish the NDC does the needful by taking the issue to court for redress. That's the way to go. Franklin, there's a question from you. For you, he wants to know if you are the one managing your Facebook account. He wants to be your friend and to work with you.
Oh, wow.
So I'm sure he'll contact you. Alan from Chantan, I urge the NDC to seek redress in court and not to resort to violence in spite of the many judges he hurriedly appointed. Donald Trump.
That's offensive.
Donald Trump, he's talking about Donald Trump. So-called, which one? Whether he's the one managing his
He will,
don't worry.
I suspect there are reasons why this country discovered that. My posts are usually laced with a lot of humor and.
No, you're doing great. You're doing great.
So do you manage your account yourself?
No, that will be later. Let's go.
Oh, I do.
He does.
Except that my fan page has been hacked, so I don't.
Okay.
I heard that some time ago. Yeah.
All right. So Alan from Chantan, your point is that we should have trust in our judicial system here in Ghana.
Exactly.
Okay. AU Farouk in Tamale. Indeed, the NDC's decision to contest the results as announced by the EC is a step in the right direction. Stephen from New Legon, please let Mr. Hadzide know that the 1996 when they wrote the stolen verdict and in 2012 when they contested the results in court, all the institutions he mentioned equally declared the results as free and fair. He should give us a break. Abdul Majid from Tempane. Election is about counting heads and not cutting heads, and I'm ready to commit to peace. JM should not forget he signed this and therefore should abide by it. Okay. Honorable Hadzide, I have plenty messages for you. Abdul Majid, you say good submission from Franklin. He always said he wished the EC well. It's embarrassing what we are seeing from the EC now. Evangelist Felix Asari, I plead with the NDC to bring figures to show that yes, what they are saying is true. They have not done that throughout any of their discussions and press conferences.
What actually you think the one who should have won got? I think it's very outstanding.
Okay.
You can let us know.
Jesse Emmanuel Behine from Abeka. John Mahama and the NDC must do the right thing. You don't challenge the outcome of an election through press conferences. Go to court and prove your case. Okay. All right. I think the EC lacks the... you said the EC was not able to calculate the results well. I cannot use the exact words you wrote here. Please keep your messages civil. Prince Henry, even though the EC has declared another president-elect, I see John Mahama is the one most Ghanaians voted for. Okay. Thank you for your messages. This is the big issue on Citi FM and Citi TV. We are talking about the presidential and parliamentary elections and the matters arising. We'll be back shortly. Don't go away. Many thanks for staying tuned to the big issue on Citi FM and Citi TV. My name is Abena Nyamekye Ampadu here with Dr. Justice Moses Aheto with the NDC, Franklin Cudjoe, President of Imani Africa. Yaw Oppong is a private legal practitioner. Pius Enam Hadzide, Deputy Minister of Information, and Dr. Kojo Asante is Director of Advocacy and Policy Engagement at the CDD. I want us to wrap up with the issue about the presidential elections. But Doc, as we do that, per the NDC's computations, what is the figure, or what figures were you able to arrive at as being the total valid votes cast in favor of John Mahama?
Okay, thank you. So, like the former President John Dramani Mahama indicated in his press statement, he made it clear that they'll be pursuing this. I'm very sure you remember.
Yeah, I do.
I was just telling a counsel that he's a counsel. If you want to go to a battle, you don't give your weapon to your enemy. I was just telling him. So the whole thing is that we collected our own result. Please, can I finish? We collected our own result. We know what we got. And that is why the party came the first time to make their press conference or statement. Okay, that's the first point.
So you cannot give us that figure?
I cannot give you. You have the figure, I cannot give you. We have the figure.
But what does that figure do? Does it put Mahama as the winner? Does it take us to a runoff? At least you can give us that hint.
No, that is not possible.
You can't?
Because the moment I speak to that, then it means I've concluded on the figure. Because remember that when you put out the figure, you have to put meaning behind the figure. Let's remember this.
But just,
I'm coming. When you put the figure out, you need to put the meaning behind the figure. So if I go the opposite direction and I put the meaning, it means already I've concluded. That's the whole thing. So I'm telling you that the party has a directive. They want to proceed this in a very legal way. And although I'm not entitled, I'm not given the power to disclose what we got, I can assure you I'm part of the auditing team. We have done everything. But we finished with our own collation first. What we are doing now is just an auditing. I know you understand what I'm saying.
Okay.
So I didn't receive that authority from the party to put out the figure.
Not even the collated figure.
Not even the collated figure.
It's on secret.
Yes. Not even the collated figure. Because what is next? And Mahama made it clear.
It's on state secret.
But you can't even give us a hint whether it's heading towards a runoff or say John Mahama is ahead of Nana Addo.
I'm not mandated to give that one.
Okay.
Now since you mentioned my name, because we had a private conversation. Well, I mean, no, that's fine. I mean, the clear thing is that litigation is not a battle. It's not even a game. When you go, you are going to put, and now with our new proceedings, you have to put all your documents, your evidence together, exchange it within a reasonable time. And the CI 99, which is going to regulate presidential election petition, which I have here, has outlined all this. Look, your case can even be thrown out within the shortest possible time. Out of the no, it may not get to the 42. Because at the case management stage, the earliest possible time, you have to have sufficient evidence to support these things. And so, yes, it may not be convenient for you to disclose these things here. I agree, but I'm very certain that you are aware that once you hit court, which is what I'm saying, that because of the tension and the confusion that erupted in various places, which appeared to be dying down a bit, though, if people are so convinced about their case in court, to challenge the results of the presidential elections, I think that should be done, because as soon as that is done,
the better.
Everybody will have to shut his or her mouth as far as well, maybe not the mouth, but as far as engagement in violence is concerned, because you know that the court will be waiting for you, and you may suffer punishment, serious punishment, contempt for it. So if there's time, we can just go.
Just quickly from you, Doc, so that Honorable Hadzide can come in.
That's fine,
so should we take it as the NDC is going to court?
Okay, what I know is that we are following the due processes, and all the options available to us, the party will weigh and go for one. But I cannot confirm that you're going to
whether
court.
you are going to
I
court.
can't confirm that.
Okay.
Well, let me say that I am rather disappointed that the NDC will want to take the nation along this path, have information that may be useful, but decide to keep it to themselves.
They say when you're going to war, you don't disclose.
It's aware of this. If you disclose as a necessary first step in court. So what has been said.
No.
If I may, Doc, you said the rules. Let's obey them. No interruption.
I'm happy you have changed.
Good. So don't become worse than I was. I'm saying that it's rather disappointing that the NDC is taking the nation along this path, but they have information that may be useful to us, they are keeping it, yet they are inviting us to support their cause. And so viewers must make a decision for themselves if this is a cause worthy of support. If the people, the information they have, they are holding either in their armpit or close to their chest. That's number one. Number two is that we must understand that any human institution, there may be the opportunities or the chances that people will make mistakes, errors occur, because we are mere mortals. And that we should invest more in building capacities of our state institutions, including the Electoral Commission.
Agreed.
But I'm not surprised because, you see, in 2004, thereabout, when His Excellency John Agyekum Kufuor got elected, we had the same narratives. The NDC even attempted to go to court. In fact, they filed some proceedings at the court. It's just that they didn't continue. So it is not something that is new. But what is clear is that it is a normal trick in the book that when political parties lose elections, their leadership, in wanting to assuage the feelings of their followers and to manage the people's expectations, mostly in the view of their own survival in their own political parties, they engage in some of these gimmicks. And so we, unsuspecting people, if you are not minded, we'll just follow them.
But they are playing a game. So you are not unsuspecting.
They are playing a game in their own survival within their party, you see. Because it is clear. It is clear that the people of Ghana gave His Excellency the President a renewed mandate, and we are grateful for that. We should work together to build capacity.
So which one is the old trick?
That when you lose election, then you go fishing, and you take even if there are spelling mistakes, I's have not been dotted and T's have not been crossed. And you take it, you see this I.
Is that what the NDC, the MPP did?
Well, then
in 2008 and in 2012.
No, in 2012, even if you read the ruling of the Supreme Court, some of us even have argued that the judgment actually amounted to a 5-4-4. But in the wisdom of the court, they gave it to them. No problem. We have accepted it. We have moved on. I'm saying that as a political student, I know that when political parties lose elections, their leadership engage in some of these gimmicks. Okay, the NDC did it in 2004. They abandoned the process. That's evidence. We believe that we had a strong case in 2012, so we didn't abandon. We went the full haul. Okay, but I'm sure that they will not even start. That's why when you asked him, he said he's not sure. Even if they start, I'm telling you, they will abandon it because this is much ado about nothing.
I would like you to help us with. I know that the justices revealed the reviewed election adjudication manual. Yeah. So if this heads to court, what should the nation expect? Okay,
I'll just quickly highlight the relevant points. When you look at that's the CI 99 that they brought about the amendment of CI 16. Now, the one important portion that which has been highlighted in the manual here is about the parties, which is very important. So in this, the clear position is that it is only the person who claims should have been declared the winner and not the one declared that has the capacity to bring the action. Okay. So the other one that Vice President Baumia and Jake may not be the position now. And also, the only people that can be sued is the person in whose favor the declaration was made and the EC. So the situation where the NDC and some 500 and something also wanted to join, that will not be allowed also. So it says parties to the petition.
No amicus curiae.
that may be permitted if, of course, you don't want to remind Franklin of this, which is good anyway, that the parties in a petition shall be the petitioner, 2, the person declared as president, and the Electoral Commission. And the petitioner is defined to be the person who is actually challenging the results in the sense that he participated in it and that he rather should have been declared the winner and not. So in this case, the argument may then be whether somebody like Ife Kriadonko, our own mom, had decided that she rather should have been declared the winner and Goom what's his name?
Yes. Christian Pabna Andrews.
Yes, had also then thought that he should rather also have been declared the winner. Whether any of these who contested could or have capacity to bring the action. I think they could once they participated in it. So you may get more than one petitioner, maybe filing different petitions, but maybe consolidated, so that you don't take it that it is only the one who is the closest to the winner that can file it. So there's no issue about joinder at all. Then let me just also go ahead and highlight a very important point about the timing, which is in the second schedule.
Okay.
So filing and service of petition, they've indicated in January. Then 7 days later, it should have been served within that time. Then 7 days, you filed appearance. That is the person, that is this day, the EC, and the person who was declared and whose declaration is being challenged will also have file an answer. Then a very important 10 days time, a very important process. It's called pre-trial. This is where they are going to examine the documents. Have you exchanged them? Everything should be done. If you don't take care, the case can end here. Then the hearing may start on the 15th day. On the 21st day, end of hearing. And then judgment day is the 42nd day, at least by March. So between January and March, the case is over. And I think they are seriously determined to ensure that this is done. Now, the last thing that I may have to, I've spoken about prohibition of joinder. So substantially, this is what and this is not just a statement by the Supreme Court. This is the CR 99, which is law and binding on all the parties. So if you think that you have a matter to challenge the election of President Kufuor by now, you should have started at least putting together your thing, because once you are served, and then so you file it with the registrar within the 21 days stipulated, then the registrar will ensure that it's served on you. Sometimes he can even go for another for substituted service, where it can be sent to you by the non-usual way, but these days they even allow WhatsApp if this can accommodate, or Facebook, or maybe an announcement in the newspapers or radio or state media. It can be brought to your attention. And as soon as it is brought to your attention, now you can file an answer and a statement of facts, and even with an affidavit raising preliminary objection. And if the preliminary objection is upheld, the case ends. And therefore, and then if you are served and you fail within time to file, the case can be determined, and nobody will wait for you. So it's a very serious process that has been put together, and the Supreme Court itself had to go through some orientation themselves. So you can imagine that the rest of us, what is also expected of us, and I think they organized some for the lawyers and so on. So, but for me, or ultimately, if this matter cannot be resolved for our safety, the integrity of all our systems, let us go to court. I always say that God has endowed us with a lot of benefit, but what, for me, prevails over all is independent judiciary, independent-minded, fearless, bold judges. They will determine the matter based on what you have played before them, the law, and even more importantly, the oath they have taken.
All right. Let's now move to talk about the issue of the parliamentary elections. Per the statement the Electoral Commission released, that was on the 10th of December, the NPP has 137 seats and the NDC has 136. They put Senate West as outstanding. Dr. Kojo Asante, I'd like to start with you on this. What do you make of this current view of the 8th Parliament?
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
Okay, so I'm asking about the numbers between the two major parties, the NPP and the NDC, when it comes to Parliament. Per the figures the EC released, the NPP has 137, NDC 136, one outstanding.
Yes. All right, thank you. Certainly, I think right from the beginning, the issue really for the NDC has been the prospect of securing a parliamentary majority. And I think in that particular case, they definitely have a strong, valid point, and whichever issues they want to contest in particular constituencies, they really have every right to look at that, because the price, of course, what is at stake is very important in terms of both the party going forward, also in terms for the MPP, in terms of having a chance to be able to govern within a certain comfort level in the coming 4 years. So I think the stakes are high. So I would encourage everybody that feels that there are any issues there to basically challenge this as much as they can within the rules. What I don't advocate, and I feel it's so disappointing and regrettable, is the kind of violence and in some cases actually preventing any kinds of declaration going on and so on. And that has led to the deaths, needless deaths of citizens. Of course, we have to also call for very swift investigations in the cases where shootings involve the security agencies, the army or any other security agencies where citizens have been fired upon. That is a matter that we are going to pursue to ensure that if things were done improperly, that the appropriate people are sanctioned for it, because any kind of loss of life is just not acceptable in this kind of context. So let me deal with the matter about a possible hung parliament. So you have 137 and 136 with Senate West, I think, outstanding.
Yeah.
Depending on where it goes. So depending on where it goes, it could be an MPP majority, but very slim majority if that happens. Or basically you end up with 137 with one independent who may decide to sit with the majority or sit with the MPP. The rules in Parliament is quite unclear about an independent joining a party to form a majority, because the standing orders talk about majority party and doesn't raise the issue about independence. So this is new territory. I'm sure it would be discussed. Maybe they have to go back to look at their parliamentary practice in Esquive to understand how these things have been dealt with in other jurisdictions. But certainly the price of speaker, who determines the speaker, first deputy speaker, and so on, is huge. And so this is a matter that we are all started looking at our constitutions again, trying to get an understanding of how we're going to deal with that. And if you look at the timing, the one constituency elections are likely to happen in January.
Okay.
If that happens, we're probably likely to go to NDC. That can also create other permutations. But now, by December 6th, midnight or whatever, the term of that parliament basically expires. And a new parliament has to be elected, and you have to elect a speaker. We will do that without Guan at that time. What happens when Guan comes in and the permutations have changed? Will we go through another speaker election process? So there are legal and constitutional issues that those of us who are watchers and look at this process have to start digging up and begin to understand what are some of the practical but also legal constitutional ways in which we can overcome the challenge. So that's all the legal permutations. Of course, politically, this is not going to be easy. Forming committees, getting the right proportions of committees, being able to work together, it's going to be a tough ask. But what Ghanaians are saying is very, very clear. politics as usual cannot go on. We have to find a different path that makes sure that, you know, our institutions can deliver for the welfare of the people. And I think all of us will be ensuring that that mandate that Ghanaians have imposed on our legislators and our politicians is fulfilled.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Franklin, we are staring at a possible hang parliament.
What is that?
Yeah, that's why it is kind of
There are
UK.
certain terms that the working parliament, they don't apply to us.
I mean,
So, sorry, you said the hang parliament doesn't apply to us.
I mean, I'm saying that I don't know where those terms are.
He has a problem with the term. Franklin, go ahead. Go
There
ahead.
cannot be any hang parliament.
Go ahead.
In Ghana.
It's a term used globally.
Okay, I don't understand that. Either a hang parliament or a divided government.
Or working,
Yeah,
or working
a working
parliament.
parliament.
Those are different. Those
Yeah.
are
You
different
see, they
technologies.
apply to UK.
Yeah.
They have a parliamentary system. We don't.
Franklin, go ahead and make your
Go
point.
on,
Yeah.
go on.
Maybe he can explain working parliament.
one of the biggest reliefs that I was hoping for is exactly what have turned out in Parliament. Whether there is a slim majority or not, it doesn't give anybody exclusivity when it comes to some of the very difficult decisions that have to be made concerning fiscal decisions. And I look at this parliament and then I wonder whether an Ejepa could have passed through easily, a Kelly could pass through easily. No, it wouldn't have happened. You know, and so for me, as my good friend Dr. Kojo Asante has said, politically, this is the best coup d'etat that the Ghanaian had actually committed to. And I think in some regard, the president has realized, in fact, in his speech, in his first speech after the EC announced the results that stand contested now, he did say that the parliament, I mean, this is an opportunity for the government and the EDC government to work together.
To work together.
And this is so ominous because the point is that we've been seeking, and I know my good friend Kojo Asante, CDD, IDEG, and co have been at the helm of this whole idea of winner takes all politics, not good for us. Well, a part of me feels that politics is about contesting the best of ideas. But I'm now beginning to learn and understand why they held that position, that the winner takes all mentality actually kills initiative and kills development.
Where you appoint your opponent.
This is the situation where we are right now, where the Constitution, which is supposed to have helped us deal with the winner takes all mentality, actually doesn't. It makes the president a Superman, appointing almost 6,000 persons he barely knows. And now he has to now work within a parliamentary system that looks very, 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 very thinly divided. And I think it is very good for us. I think that the sort of accountable governance that we require can now be exercised through the mandate of the Parliament. Of course, everything is possible in politics. It may as well be that all these things I'm saying are just wet dreams, and that minority eventually, or the who becomes minority, could be some cozy with inducement here and there, and then may become sleepy on the job.
Still have trust issues.
That is his style.
Yes, I wanted to
That is his style.
a clarification.
And I saw it through. I saw it on the through the submissions of my good friend Pius. You see, Pius, really, if this election had gone like 57% for the NADO, he would have come blazing and making it look like Charlie, they won the biggest prize ever. He was very conciliatory.
Is that what is happening to you, Franklin?
Let me just
And I like the posture of Pius and the entire government. They are very, very, very careful how to jubilate on this.
they are being modest. Anyway.
We actors, I don't think at the level we can use Parliament now to overturn some of the decisions that have been made. And all of that. So I'm very, very, very happy.
Okay.
About it, I did say that I wanted to become the personal assistant of the former MP. because I think he now holds a very important key.
We will advise against it. I will advise him strongly against it.
Like the parliament the way it looks right now.
Well, you see, there has been an issue about the importance of majority in parliament, and some are saying that the person with majority has the right to even nominate a speaker and so on. I think that is not backed by law. I mean, I have
what we have now.
I have a copy of the. I have a relevant copies of the Parliament's own standing orders, and 8. There shall be Speaker of Parliament who shall be elected by members of Parliament from among members who are members of Parliament or who qualified to be elected as such under the Constitution. And whenever there is a vacancy in the office of Speaker as a result of dissolution of Parliament, Parliament shall proceed to the election of Speaker as soon as quorum, a quorum is present, and before members have been sworn. Then, prior to the election, the clerk shall chair as chairman. Then no person, okay, I can just skip it, a member addressing himself to the clerk, a member, shall propose such person to the House as its speaker, and shall move that such person do take the chair of this House as speaker, which motion shall be seconded, and so on. Then the important aspect is that where more than one person is proposed, a motion shall be made and seconded in respect of such person, and the House shall proceed to elect a speaker by secret ballot in accordance with the provisions of this order. Nothing is mentioned about a person with majority having the. You remember Alajete's situation?
That's an inference. That's an inference.
If you read it that way,
yeah,
I mean, it's a simple mathematics. Yeah. If it is by simple majority, whoever has majority.
But Kojo, that is the problem. The problem we have. Why are we looking at members of Parliament as if they cannot just change their minds and they are just expected? That is why a lot of them are even losing their seats. We shouldn't. No. The point I'm making is that legally there is nothing like an advantage being given to the majority to nominate a speaker, as some people have been saying. That is the point I'm clarifying, that legally, that is not what is provided. But what is provided is that any of the members can nominate any person from among them or who otherwise was qualified to be a member of Parliament.
Not a simple majority.
No, that shall nominate.
In the election.
And then, if more than one person is nominated, that happened during the almost second term of Alajete and Sechi Hills.
Yes.
The NDC supported Alajete, who is an MPP man. You see, so
but why did he lose?
No, but I'm saying that I'm not talking about who wins, but I'm saying that the idea that even the NDC will by all means go for an NDC man, it's not borne out by even practice. And secondly, legally, the majority, neither the majority or the minority has an exclusive right to nominate, as has been bandied about. That is the point I'm explaining. And so it doesn't matter whether you have majority or minority. If any person is able to choose another, and it may happen that both parties, remember, if MPP had wanted Alajete to continue, both parties would have settled on him. And the point is that it's possible that both parties can agree on one person without even it going through vote. Because it says that if one person is nominated, it goes through. But yes, but I'm saying that idea, and anybody who wants to, in this parliament, show to the people of Ghana that they are ready to frustrate the government, and it cuts both ways. And if the government thinks that they can just take parliament for granted, something more serious than what has happened now will happen in 2024. And people shouldn't be surprised that the president's own party may not have majority in parliament, because the people of Ghana have become more sophisticated voters than we had assumed them to be. Why would they even vote against all these numerous deputy ministers, but rather vote for the president?
In those consensus?
In this, because like Amehu, you know that there was a president that has president's appointment that has made him be in the position to bring development and so on, so you vote for him? Why would they have voted against the same measure against the president, knowing that if the president doesn't win, Amewu will not be in the position to do what he's doing for them? But that is how sophisticated they have become. And so let anybody take people of the voter of Ghana for granted. We are not in other countries where people are placed in pigeonholes when it comes to election. Blue state, red state, yellow state. No. People are now going to look at what you do in parliament. If a good policy is coming and you decide on the basis of a party decision to vote against it, your time is coming. And if you're a government and you think that because you have majority, you are going to run over members of parliament as if they represent no one else, your time is also coming. For me, that is the greater thing I take from this. Consultation. Okay. Consultation. In fairness, fair consultation should be what they should adopt. And otherwise, 2024 will just come and go, and then small serious matters will happen. I'm telling you.
Honorable Hadzide.
Well, I think that I can agree with Honorable
Not
lawyer.
yet. Not yet. Or have you heard something? Have you heard something from the corridor?
It has not yet.
Pius, when are you running? When are you running?
But you see, this information is critical, especially on the background of some of the misinformation that is being put out there. For instance, the General Secretary of the NDC has several times said that the NDC, because they are supposedly have some working majority, I don't know where that terminology also came from, they are going to elect the speaker. Then he proceeded to the second deputy speaker. So this information, this education, they are important. And so I'm happy that the lawyer has taken us through. So we have to understand where we stand and let people move away from this indoctrination and misinformation they want to put out into the system. Number two thing for me is that, yes, I agree the standing orders speak about majority party, minority party. But I know that one of the first things that will happen in any parliament where there is an independent candidate will be a determination
which caucus
you want to belong to.
That's right.
Whether you want to sit on the left to the speaker, on the right to the speaker. And without a doubt, we all know where Honorable Esiama from Femina is going to sit.
Is it a done deal, or you are still negotiating?
It's a matter of the man campaigned for the MPP. In fact, he's on record.
Campaign for Nanado.
For Nanado. For the records, even after his elections, he has said that he is comfortable sitting with the MPP.
I haven't heard him say that.
No, yes, he has. I've heard interviews of him on sister stations. He's there. And you see, he's a politician. The man doesn't want to do one term in parliament. He comes from Femina, where the MPP is hugely popular. He cannot risk another term on the back of this guaranteed 4 years. If I were him, I'll be looking beyond 2021 to 2024. What step he takes now will determine what happens in the near future. If you go to Femina before the election, if you went to Femina before the elections, one of the reasons why the people voted for him was the assurance that I am MPP. There were some issues, and that's what has forced me to do this, but I have always been MPP. And so there cannot be any doubt about where he will sit. So for me, that is
so the MPP counts that as your seat.
No,
they can't.
Because that will even amount to the seats being declared vacant.
Let him answer.
He's an independent candidate. But I would doubt very much that he would decide to sit on the NDC caucus. I doubt it very much. I think that he will sit with the MPP.
Okay.
Well, that's what when you wanted to be special as
because you're making it simplistic.
You want to be advisor. Look, you want to be advisor. You are going to be advising wrongly. You're going to be advising the worst thing.
Even though your party,
the best thing to do,
pushed for him to be sacked from parliament.
No,
they did.
I'm saying that the best thing. Anybody in his shoes, what he would do, what is in his interest, will be to sit with MPP. It will be suicidal.
I will not be that.
It will be suicidal. But
you have to reach out.
Of course. That's another matter.
More importantly,
that's another matter. But you see, this election Yes, it is a very close parliament, a slim majority that we have.
You don't have a majority.
We do, my brother.
Well, please, 37.
We have 37.
Well,
we
the
have
EC
36.
figures, 37
but that
and
is still not the
136.
prescribed majority.
This is not the prescribed majority. It's not. It's not.
Let him make his point because it will affect your time,
This is the
please.
problem of the NDC. At the moment, you have 137, you have 136. Even with that, you claim you have majority.
Okay,
So I
you
don't
go
know why they
ahead.
do these things. So you see, it doesn't take away from the powers vested in the president. We run an executive presidency, okay? But the president has operated in the spirit of cooperation and collaboration for a long time. And I think that even now, we will see more of that attitude going forward because the people of Ghana have spoken, okay? But we must also know that in Parliament, the business of Parliament is conducted generally on consensus basis. About 90% of the issues that happen in Parliament are done through the consensus gathering and general agreement.
But you get to push a lot of the bills and agreements through because you have the numbers.
Less than 10%.
Depending on the...
Less than 10%. And Mr. Franklin Cudjoe speaks of one or two of those ones.
Yeah, he mentioned the Japan.
So those ones, we can engage. Okay, we can engage. But lawyer made an important point that anybody who walks into Parliament now, either thinking to railroad the opposition or to frustrate the government, I can then suggest to them that they will be punished by the people of Ghana because they are going to be watching closely. So if you are going to be opposing just for opposition's sake, and you're going to be destructive instead of productive, the people of Ghana will take note. So I'm not alarmed at all at what the results have panned out to be. I think it's good for us.
Okay.
It will bring some, in fact, serious competition and on the floor, and even to catch the speaker's eye. Right now, as it were, as much as possible, the majority, which is also in government, will have to be in Parliament for most of the time. So that will be some extra work. We want to do that work. That's
more of your ministers too from Parliament.
But we have to do that work.
Okay.
We want to do that work.
So let's hear from you on this.
In conclusion, I think that the three issues that have been set out by Dr. Aheto's own presentation is that when you do all the additions and subtractions, they find that 174 thereabout has been added to Nana Akufo-Addo's vote. And then 1,000 or so have been taken away from Mr. Mohammed's vote.
Okay, you are back on the presidential.
And that
according to him,
a larger denominator, which is total votes cast, was used as the denominator. So these are the three issues that the long conversation we have had have been reduced to.
in summary,
But an additional...
See, Honorable Hadzide, let him make his point. We are talking about that.
I think it's changed the topic now.
Yes. So
he tried to summarize.
No, he will have a chance
we'll have a chance to finalize our
so
decision.
please,
So we will get there.
we know that the NDC also has concerns with the parliamentary. Yesterday, Sedun Ketia and Honorable Collins Dauda were in Techiman South.
Yeah, that's correct.
What have you found with the parliamentary elections and your concerns on them?
Okay, so thank you very much.
Thank you, majority for.
In fact, the beauty of the whole thing is that in Techiman South, per the electoral law or acts, at the police station, you can call for a recount if you're not satisfied with some of the outcomes.
Right.
And the limit is 2, okay? But we observed that in Techiman South, all these 2, the NDC won. But we were counted up to the 5th time. Some of them were counted like 4th and the 5th time, which is not permitted by the law. So they don't have to take an offense about it. There are procedures they need to follow to make sure that the right thing is done. And that is where the leadership and the lawyers have to go to the Techiman South. I'm very sure many of you have seen them on the ground.
Yeah.
So this is something we should not even worry too much about because there are legal processes they need to follow to address it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So no problem about that at all. But the only thing that is very interesting, as others have presented, is the number of seats that were in contention. Initially they mentioned about 5 of them that were in contention, and which shouldn't have been the case. But me, I always believe in dialogue. I mean, because we have primary source of information that can be used to make a decision on whatever the outcome is.
That's right.
So what we need to do is to get to the pink sheet, just collate them again, and then make sure that those who qualify to be declared as winners of these constituencies are declared legally. As simple as like that. That's my take on that one. Then coming to contribute to the interesting discussion regarding the parliament, how it's going to flow.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree with the council that, I mean, it's not a rubber stamp that once you are a majority or a minority, you cannot propose somebody to be your speaker or anything. But I mean, I believe in reality. I'm a realist person. We have the theory, we have the practical.
No, we have law and we have practice. According to you, the law always prevails.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm looking at the context also. It will be so difficult in Ghana now, where you have a government that is not in power, but have majority in parliament, to always decide to take somebody as a speaker from the government in power. I don't know if you're getting the dynamics.
I get
That's
you.
why we use the word the theory and the practical, especially in our part of the world. This can happen maybe in some other jurisdictions.
It can happen here too.
Yes. No, I'm just being real.
Well, you say difficult, but it's not impossible.
That's what I'm saying. So that's why I want to be very real.
Please
okay?
go on.
So the argument about this is for sure, whoever wins the majority in parliament will surely, I mean, but the only chance is that, you know, there are certain percentages you also need to get. If it's about simple majority, then there's no problem at all. Simple. But if it's about serious decisions where certain quorum need to be formed, and for you to have certain percent amount to tell or something before you can make a certain decision, this is where the game became very interesting.
Okay.
And I'm looking forward because, to be frank with you, Parliament, sorry to say, Parliament was taken for granted for so long a time. And I side with the council that this is a time that both the opposition and then the majority in parliament need to work closely together. Because if you think you are in majority in parliament but not in government, so you could do things that might throw the country in some way, the people are discerning. They might have some way of responding that you might not know. What actually happened to the MPP this time around could have happened to them if they behaved that way. That's the way I see it. The same way, if you think you are in government, so you want to veto certain things, don't worry, people will be watching at the same time.
Yeah.
Like as some of them were hinted already, like the Japan deal, the PDS scandal, and all that kind of stuff. If the parliament, what we are going to have now, is the same, trust me, this will not even get there. They will not even try to push it there.
Right.
They're able to push it there because they know they have the majority of whatever they do, they bulldoze it out. But this time around, my happiness is that this is not going to happen.
Okay, but there are people like Franklin who also have the trust issues because it doesn't really mean that they will resist.
That is definitely correct. Can I finish with her? That's definitely correct because and that's what we are saying. That if even that one, the Ghanaians can still punish those people who might do that. But trust me, it is people who voted them there also. If you go there and you are taking bribes instead of doing what the party even wants you to do, you know that you also are at risk. Okay. It's not surprising that majority of our ministers and deputy ministers in the NPP lost their seats. Some of this is went on. So I'm cautioning everybody, either on the majority side or minority or whatever it is, all of them have to behave like Ghanaians so that they put Ghana first.
Okay.
Yeah, but just a quick one. The narration relative to Techiman South, that's the NDC side of the story.
Yes.
What we know, and I think it's fair that we put it out, that there have been problems with only 2 of the polling stations, Alkania Upper Atomic, and then Hansua DAGHS1. Alkania, there was overvoting. The NDC, the MPP initially wanted that to be excluded. The Electoral Commission gave the judgment that no, the MPP allowed it, it was added. In the Hansua DHS1, the ballot paper was destroyed. And so the NDC didn't want the results to be, to have been added. Okay, but there were the soft copies of the pink sheet, and also parties had the pink sheet. And the MPP's point is that those have to be added. And when they were added, the candidate-elect Martin Kosa was duly declared. So this question of counting 5 times and so on.
How was the ballot destroyed? How was the ballot destroyed?
I don't want to even politicize it. You people came and snatched the ballot box.
NDC people.
Be careful what you put on. Be careful.
Which center?
Let me tell you. Let me the host.
And do you have a pictures or videos to validate this?
Everybody saw the ballot.
This is not correct.
We did not see that. We did not see that. We did not see that.
There was something, but I don't know where.
It wasn't snatched ballot boxes.
I said it was destroyed.
You said it was destroyed.
In the process,
we do not have that. What we have was the gunshots that injured 2 people.
There were ballots that were destroyed.
The one that was scattered. But how do we know the people who picked it were NDC supporters?
That's why he was pushing me that who did what.
So you're not really sure if it was NDC supporters.
These are credibility issues. These are credibility issues.
No, what is credibility?
Hold on.
Who benefits from this ballot papers being thrown out?
So
it is them.
You see, that's a credibility issue.
No,
See.
Oh, he's taking
Honorable
it. He's
Hadzide,
just
listen.
more. So
Please.
Maybe it's in the spirit.
Were there NDC supporters? Were they the one who scattered the ballot? Do you know that for a fact?
benefit
Hold on.
to
Do
them.
you know that for a
I'm saying
fact?
that.
We are not fighting for the team.
It's a fact that when the NDC didn't want that polling station to be added, and the ballot was destroyed,
By
it
who?
stands to reason
By who?
that the people who didn't want that ballot box to be added, they were the ones who destroyed the ballot
So
box.
you are inferring that it was NDC
My
supporters,
goodness.
but you don't have any facts to
goodness.
back this
You
claim.
see, when I was
Okay,
making
so
that
these
Twitter,
are
you
just
say,
claims you are making.
exactly, pure claims.
All right, Dr. Asante, on the issue of the parliamentary, if we are seeing a tie or the current numbers we have, will it have any impact on the governance structure at all?
Well, I think there's been some discussion about it. The committees, for instance, it's one of the areas where it's going to be very interesting because Parliament has some proportions that you work out. I think I don't know what the current structure is these days, but a committee
always
roughly
plus one or
maybe
two
have,
for the majority.
28 or 30, and you have to work out the proportions, 50% each, and so on and so forth. And when you have to take a decision, there are many permutations that happen. But that is very, very important for getting policies onto the floor of Parliament, and so on. So there's a lot of negotiation that have to be had around the structure of committees and all of that, which are really very important. But I think the point that Yaw Oppong made and other guests have made is really about having a certain orientation of cooperation.
Yeah.
Yes.
That that you have to give something in order for you to get something.
Yeah.
And that has to be right from the start. Otherwise, it's going to be a very, very difficult process for everybody. And if one group is seen as disruptive, an impediment to the welfare of Ghanaians or the Parliament's ability to deliver for Ghanaians, I think they would know that Ghanaians will not forgive them. And I think all of us will be watching very closely how people comport themselves in order for them to be able to do the work that Parliament is set up to do. So the orientation is going to be very, very important right from the start. And we expect that some of the experienced leaders would work with their colleagues to make sure that we get the right orientation so that it can be cooperative. There will be differences. There will be policy differences on issues, but it shouldn't become one that brings Parliament, to a standstill. And that is where I think some of the leadership for committees and so on, who you select for that is going to be very, very important.
All right. Franklin.
Yes. Well, my comments are about the independent candidate, Pius. Pius, fact that the guy must necessarily stand with the MPP.
No, I haven't said that. Frankly, I haven't
He
said that.
didn't say that.
I said
Right.
it will be.
You said you are sure.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
says
I'm sure, I'm sure.
that's the obvious choice.
I'm sure.
Okay, well, I'm appealing to the constituency that shouldn't be the case because these persons knew that they were aligned together with the MP. In fact, the president did say, I cannot work with him.
Exactly,
Now that the voters have differentiated, I think that the voters know the differences between
But has Mahama said he can work with him?
Mahama is not the president.
Frankly.
I urge the Promenade MP to be very steadfast and ensure that, he votes his conscience every time. He may as well be our
We will
kingmaker.
keep you far away
Frank,
from
are you
him.
on
We will
the
keep you very far away from him.
for the personal assistant job?
You have the phone number.
That is
We will
what Pius
keep you
doesn't
very
want.
far away from him. You will be such a terrible influence. We will
The
keep you
concept
far
has
away
already
from
been
him.
established.
I think we have to look at the constituents. I mean, the almost similar number also voted for the president. And I think that if they are made to understand that if you don't put pressure on this parliamentarian who says that he had listened to these same voters to go independent. I think the constituents will be disappointed in him if he ends up not being on the side of the government. He cannot cross carpet because the constitution is against it.
Yeah,
but he can even decide to cross carpet if there is an agreement that a by-election will be held and nobody from the MPP side will contest him.
So that he will.
That is also maybe an extreme suggestion, but it's also possible.
So for now, he can just join the side, but not return to the NPP.
You have to pay.
Very extreme.
Very smart.
So these are some of the permutations, but I think that it will be most shocking that the constituents will support him not to be with the caucus of the NPP, but with the caucus of the NDC. But then, I still stand by the point. That should not lead him to always vote for MPP or always vote for NDC, whichever side he decides to join. And to all the parliamentarians, it doesn't pay if you see that this policy or this decision is wrong. And sometimes, as I said, we import some of these ideas. In our parliament, we don't seriously have with us this whip system. That pertains in parliamentary systems like is practiced in the UK. Because there, even the prime minister must come from a particular political party. In Ghana, you don't need to belong to a political party to become president. The political party can only nominate you or support you, but you don't necessarily have to come from a political party to be president. That's why we had even independent candidate contesting for president. And the people have now seen, and I always say that is why, in my view, it's wrong to say NDC government and MPP government. The people now understand that the power of government is vested in one person. That is why they will vote for President Akufo-Addo or vote for former President Mahama, and still not vote. If you look at Esikado, Kitan, the NDC member got about 22,000 or 24 or so, and Jogati got about 26. But President Mahama had less, whilst President Akufo-Addo rather had more, about 30 plus thousand.
Correct.
So the people now recognize that we don't now care so much about your parties. We can vote for the person you have nominated to be president, but we don't like your party.
Okay.
Or the person the party has nominated. And for me, that is clear case of an understanding of Article 58.
Yeah.
Which vests executive power in the president.
Yeah.
And now, when people are talking about NDC government, MPP government, be careful. The people don't really agree with you.
Okay. More from our viewers and our listeners. Lee Ford in Accra. It surprised me how we want to simplify the grave error. The EC has amended the figure from 13 million, and then you give the other one. Between those figures, somehow subtracted from the individual figures allowed to the 12 candidates. What is the quantum to be deducted from the candidates? And you say the EC was in a hurry to put out the results and committed an unforgivable blunder.
Oh, let's forgive them.
Okay, Bafo in Tema. Franklin, you should listen to this. Franklin Cudjoe must resign from the Imani.
Oh.
And
can he abandon his own baby?
He says you've been speaking for the NDC because you don't seem to like the EC chairperson. That's from Bafo in Tema. Franklin in Kaswa. If the EC is getting 100.3% and candidates got 50.2 and 50.1, who then becomes the winner since both candidates are crossing the required 50+1?
No, it's not.
That's not what is happening here. Nelson, can the NDC head to the International Court if they are not satisfied with the Supreme Court's judgment?
No. We have the Supreme Court is the final court.
Okay. Romeo in Adebraka, how can a whole EC call the national elections and later change the figures? You say that is wrong.
You make it look like
you say the show has been insightful.
Opportunity. You said 174.
I see they
See,
change the figures.
the viewers and
Allow.
listeners
Yes.
think you have been well managed. Let's not mind as we get to the end of the
Thank
program.
you. Thank
Franklin Darlington in Michelle Camp. I'd like to. Okay, I cannot read your message, Franklin. Okay, let's talk about the issue of violence, gentlemen. Dr. Asante mentioned it, and the issues that came up. 5 people are dead. Honorable Hadzide,
Yeah.
Before the elections, there were hotspots, and Ewutu Senya East particularly was in there. But we recorded violence. What is government's position on what we saw?
I think that generally, if you read all the observer reports, and even if you, in the media, what you have reported, generally, the election was free, fair, and transparent and peaceful. However, there are some isolated incidences of violence. Some of them had to, unfortunately, involve loss of life. People have called for investigations. I don't have a problem with anybody asking for investigations. But I think that those investigations must extend to the dog whistles that actually sought to mobilize people. On the night of, I believe, the 7th thereabout, the NDC came out publicly. And I also think that either on the 8th also, no less a person than the flag bearer of the NDC himself, former President Mahama, came out to also engage in what was clearly an invitation to march onto the streets, a dog whistle.
What did he say?
And we in the Ministry
What
of
did he
Information,
say?
he said that, no, it's true that people should.
That's why I'm asking that you
No,
quote his
he
words.
said the one in his house, the press conference
I remember that
he had
one.
in his house.
What
He
did
said
he say?
that people should go out there and protect their.
No.
No, he said that. Listen, we
In
were
his
compelled. Yes, we were compelled as a ministry
That
to
people
respond.
should go out?
We were compelled as a ministry to respond. You remember Cudjoe?
Yes,
Honorable
but
Minister
did
Cudjoe
Mahama
Oppong,
say people should go out?
He said that people should. I cannot quote the words that he used, but effectively. Because
That
I'm
is the
not reading.
interpretation you got
Effectively,
from what he said.
Because it's not just an interpretation. The effect of what he did was that people must to the collation centers, and not just him. I had NDC leading members sit behind the mic and actually incite people, go. Peter Otokono, for instance. Go out there, your numbers, go. Severally, it's been reported by the media. These were live press conferences. And so I'm saying that is not a decent and civilized way to engage with a dispute in an elections. And the security forces, they have a mandate and a legitimate mandate to ensure the peace and security and the protection of life and property. Sometimes in the conduct of their legitimate operations, some excesses may occur and those can be investigated. But it will be unfair not to extend the invitation to the root causes of those confrontations. When we now know that political parties and political actors were heavily and actively engaged in mobilizing people to engage in such untoward actions, is most unfortunate. And it is rather disappointing that the person who seeks to occupy the high office of president, in fact, somebody who has occupied that office before, will be the one leading the charge to want to create a general sense of insecurity and chaos and confusion within the system. And I am very much sad about the post-election occurrences of violence. And I think that it is a lesson for all of us. We should move away from these things, and also an invitation to reform some of the ways that we conduct our elections. And lawyer and Dr. Kojo Asante and even Franklin Cudjoe have spoken to the need for some reforms, especially the second layer of regional coalitions and all that were also in my view a little problematic. But having said that, it was quite unnecessary and unuseful for the NDC and its leadership to want to engage in those acts of public confusion.
I need to take another break. This is the big issue on Citi FM and Citi TV. We'll wrap it all up right after this. Don't go away. You're welcome back to the big issue. This is Citi FM and Citi TV. Dr. Aheto, on the issue of violence, based on what we heard from Honorable Hadzide, seems to suggest that your party with the press conferences and urging your supporters to stand up for what is right, that is what's caused some of these things.
Okay, thank you very much. You know, initially I made it clear that I don't want to go political in my presentations. But it looks like Hadzide wants me to open up to
well,
politics.
once you're representing the party, you don't really have to make it political, but stick the facts.
Because the reason I'm saying this is because the Commander-in-Chief of the Ghana Armed Forces at the moment is President Nana Akufo-Addo. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That's right.
You and I have seen military persons shooting into the public. You have seen the videos this going around, and he's aware already. I don't know if a party in opposition can command the Ghana Armed Forces to allow their men to go and shoot into the public. That led to the death of people. So sometimes you want to make a statement of that nature, trying to attribute it to opposition. I'm so scared about this one. I was thinking Hadzide would have said, okay, there are some few instances where it shouldn't have been, but we all need to learn lessons from these things so that we save lives. That's what I was expecting from my own brother Hadzide. But going political tangent, trying to bring in somebody who is not a commander, who is not the commander-in-chief of the Ghana Armed Forces at the moment, is so surprising. But I will be very moderate in how I talk about this violence, because violence doesn't discriminate. Sometimes, you know, a brother of mine could be around.
You didn't use the other way. The one would be.
Oh, okay, that's fine. You know, I may have a brother who is living in those communities, and when the violence escalates, everyone around could be a victim. So me, I'm one of those promoters of avoiding what? Violence. I mean, we are human beings. Should there be anything you don't understand, we can easily reconcile our decisions and come to a compromise.
Absolutely.
That's all we need.
Exactly.
So trying to point figures at certain people is not the way to go. The reason being fundamentally is that, in fact, to be frank with you, we have observed certain things that we know is not the best.
Okay.
I'm not going to blame anybody. Sometimes, you know, when the commanders even send their men to the ground, they didn't instruct them to go and do some of those things. But when they go to the ground, they might, because of the ground, they might want to show off a bit. And if you realize now, I know certain security personnel who don't even want to discharge their own arms. Before you realize now, it went off. Unintentional, I mean. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. So when things happen like this, you know, we just have to even sit down to analyze what actually might be the cause for this issue. Then when you get the cause, we can work on this for the future, support of all of us. This is what we need to do. But when somebody will try to apportion brains, let's run off from that one. That one, I didn't like Hadzide's. Now, the violence itself, to me, it's not only after the elections. It should be violence-free before, during, and after the elections. If you do the elections, we have seen how people march with weapons to some police stations. Let me tell you, when it comes to election matters, the Electoral Commission is in charge of the whole process. Even if you're a police officer, you're a soldier, you don't even have a hand in what is going on in terms of the process itself. Yours is to provide security. Even that one, there could be a time that it is the presiding officer who have to call on you and say, I'm seeing something here, I think you need to come and then take care of this for me. But for you, you're also military moving in, even where recount needs to be done, you see military now enforcing or forcing the presiding officers to do the recount.
Where was that?
For instance, what is this Techiman South? No. It's one of the issues the military were there.
Is that what happened?
No,
the military forced the recount.
Wait. Before the recount.
Before the recount.
I mean, that's the recount that they're supposed to do. The military were present. He is not telling me that they were invited.
Yes,
because who might have invited them?
The electoral officer.
Wait, according to him, an electoral officer might have invited them. That is correct. But were they invited there to cause more troubles or to stabilize the situation? Wait, let me finish. This is what I'm saying. Your role is there as a security person who have to provide order. Is that not it? But you're not supposed to be there to rather cause more mayhem. Now you have lost certain lives. So is that the best way? This is what I'm saying. For me, I'm looking at the consequences, not even the acts. The
consequences of the acts. You shouldn't have mobilized people there in the first place. We saw videos of somebody attempting to take the megaphone from the electoral officer and slap the person. The military man had to virtually push him away.
Okay, so you wanted to push the person away?
Yes.
So that blood is shooting on the people?
No, but it was aggravated outside. And so they had to fire warning shots into the air.
My brother, let take this from me. I don't support these things.
Okay.
My position is that when there is a problem, let's look at the problem. Let's not attribute the problem to somebody. Let's do the root cause. And I've informed you and I've educated you enough that the moment Nanado is the president,
you have free education today.
I'm telling you, not the SHSO, not that one. I'm telling you that at the moment, President Nana Addo is the commander-in-chief of the Ghana Armed Forces.
But he doesn't control your party foot soldiers.
Oh.
You do.
So he's only the president for
Okay,
NPP.
I'm moving on from you gentlemen now. Lawyer Oppong, the issue of violence. Please, let's have some silence.
I think that we will all have wished that these isolated violent incidents had not happened at all, completely. We shouldn't have seen that, but it occurred somehow, especially just after the election. Some of them didn't end up in serious violence, but the massing up to certain places, I mean, like to the EC. But what amazed me, because of where my office is, as soon as the results were declared, these teamy supporters left the EC place. And seriously, I really congratulated, even though we were alarmed as to how, but a message was sent to them that the state has spoken. Remember the awesome powers of the state. As soon as that was done, and I drove past there that evening, not a single person was seen. Okay. Even though I had seen hundreds or maybe thousands of people on TV who had mass up there. That for me is the attitude that we may adopt. We may not be able to prevent them from, for example, going there. But the fact that in the mind of the Ghanaian, they have now come to the final realization that crime doesn't pay. Because you can look around, ask yourself, whether any of these politicians who had, or who in whose favor you want to engage in this conduct, whether any of their children or relatives are around you, you won't find them. Obviously not. They may be in the comfort of their homes or in the comfort of their closet. They may not even be in the country. Yes. And so do you have to put yourself in harm's way just to lose your life and cause further pain to your family? That is what we have to realize. It is not a do and die affair. Let us just support with passion, but also know that if you flout the law, you are going to be punished. But finally, we should also ensure that all these EC people, their agents who work for them, we should focus on them as well. Okay. Because a lot of the violence may even be the result of the failure or refusal of an EC agent conducting himself in accordance with law after all the training. So if the right thing is done, if you're not supposed to cut off the head of somebody's candidate and you do it, you have committed an offense. There's elaborate provision that the law has made express for us. So
thank you, Lawyer Oppong. Let me take Franklin now, and then Dr. Kojo Asante will wrap it all up for us.
Is Franklin still with us?
Yes, he is. Please go ahead.
All right. Well, I think violence in all forms must be abhorred, and it's sad that this election has produced some deaths. These were needless deaths, and I think that some of the security forces were too trigger happy. The IGP has said there will be investigations, and I think that should be the order of the day. There should be investigations, and we need to get to the bottom of it.
Dr. Asante, your last comment. I almost said Dr. Oppong.
I received it. You noticed that Franklin didn't make any comment.
We don't have time, Honorable Hadzide. Let's Dr. Asante speak. Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, I think like we do with all elections, we shouldn't forget that a number of people have died, and if there's justice that has to be found for them, if there's accountability that has to be exacted, it has to be done. So I expect the media organizations like ourselves to all follow that process to a satisfactory conclusion. But there's also one lesson that we have to learn. I think our capacity to control crowds and the methods that we use have to be really revised. I mean, these days, issues of protest and so on are quite common in our space, and there will probably be more and more protests. And the security agencies have to find better ways to be able to deal with that without using live ammunition. There are many cases where the first thing the security agencies do is to use live ammunition. Firing to the air is never a safe thing. No. Somebody is still going to get hurt. In some of the confrontations, actually, I was so shocked because just the exchanges, the physical exchanges between security forces and citizens and so on was so dangerous. Anybody's gun could have been taken away and, lead to all kinds of things. The Asawase one for me was even shocking. In some cases, they even had to, civilians were restraining a security person. So there has to, I think the security agencies have to really review the way they deal with this, some of these scenarios where you are involved with civilian protests and so on, and find different methods that really allow us to be able to ensure minimal fatalities or any kinds of injuries that may happen to people who are, either aggrieved one way or the other. So I think that would be an important area to look at.
Thank you so much. That's Dr. Kojo Asante, Director of Advocacy and Policy Engagement at CDD. He joined us via Zoom, and so did Franklin Cudjoe, President of Imani Africa. In studio, I had Pius Enam Hadzide, Deputy Minister for Information. Thank you for coming. Dr. Justice Moses.
I haven't summarized my decision.
Oh.
He has done it.
You stopped it.
I didn't even summarize.
No,
okay, under 1 minute, if you can wrap it all up.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So, in summary, all the things I've discussed today, there are two key things that I pick out of this discussion. The first one is that for the EC to do the proper thing, they need to get the parties together and then get back to the recollation of the constituency result and the regional results. So that yes. Every there's a coincidence.
Ignore him and make your point.
So they have to, for the constituency result,
they want to down do it.
That's the first recommendation I'm making. The second one is that in the Ghana Armed Forces, we have to respect the command, the control, and the execution of whatever directive that is coming from the top.
Okay.
I'm not sure that a commander will send somebody to the ground to go and misbehave.
Okay.
There should be a way of managing that kind of stuff. It's very important. And finally, I want to put before everyone that in terms of what the EC themselves put out, it means that Nana Addo should be having 49.625%.
This would do
and then John Mahama should be having 46.768%.
It's not true. No.
All right, so that's Dr. Justice Moses Aheto. He's a member of the NDC's audit team. He's a statistician and a lecturer at the University of Ghana. Yaw Oppong, private legal practitioner, was also here with us. I cannot give you last words, you said it already. Thank you so much for watching and listening to The Big Issue today. My name is Abena Nyamekye Ampadu. Thank you. Goodbye.
The man said,